Welcome to Ninjamobil Dart. When we finish looking around the neighbourhood, you'll see our pretty much finished chassis. And I guess it must be pretty much finished because I'm about to paint it. Having spent the entire morning getting all the rust off it using a phosphoric acid based rust remover. It looks quite nice. Nice finish. Iron phosphate instead of iron oxide. It's grown a roll hoop since you last saw it. Massively heavier roll hoop, but that's to the cam's rules, that's alright. Looks a bit daggy, but such is life. So yeah, bit of grey paint, we'll be away. And there she is, sitting there with a nice even coat of what I would call Brabham chassis grey. That assembly you're looking at weighs 38 kilos, which is a little bit heavy, but I think it's okay. So now, if you like, you can join me in the exciting process of assembling the car. And the astute observer will notice that it's upside down, and so you can rivet the floor on. Bit of 1.2mm thick 6061 with a steel skid across the kink in the front floor. Other little salient feature, drain holes, which are a really sensible thing to put in a flat floor because any fluid leakage has a way out, and if you ever need to hose the car down, it doesn't all fill up with water. And rear floor's on there. It's got a little 20mm extra on the edge to attach a diffuser if I ever get that inspired. And that's a 4mm rivet every 70mm, and a load of JB Weld rather good glue. They rated at 27 megapascal shear strength, which is pretty impressive. So that's what I use. Should be good. These little guys have been around for a little while, but you haven't seen them yet, so here they are before they go in the car. That's my pedals. So starting with the clutch pedal, very straightforward. A couple of options for where we're going to put the clutch cable. Brake pedal with a balance bar in it. Front and rear brake master cylinders. And on the pedal pad there, it's got a bit of roughness on it, which I just attacked it with a centre punch. And the throttle pedal is pretty normal, apart from it's got this big flap on the side because there's no side of the cockpit there to stop your foot sliding off, so that'll keep you under control. And all of the pedal pivots are these little Glacier DU bushes, which are nice, simple and practical. They press into a 12mm hole, make a 10mm hole. It makes a nice nice bearing fit on there. And the bolt that goes through the whole thing is a bit of 10mm stainless rod with a drilled out nut welded on one end and a bit of thread from the machine shop down the other end. And that starts off going through the chassis. And a spacer. And a washer for a thrust reaction. And a clutch pedal. And a washer. And a spacer. And a brake pedal. And there's a piece of chassis that goes through there to react the load. And then a spacer. No, missed a bit, never mind. And a washer. And a throttle pedal. And a washer. And a nut. And that's nice and simple. The only other little item, that's what the pedals are made out of. It's a bit of, I think, 1.1/8 or something. Chromoly tube squashed flat to make it strong and stiff in that direction. Surprising how strong a pedal needs to be, but if you really go crazy on those things, you can push 150, 200 kilos on them. There's never a good time for a brake pedal to break, so nearly strong enough's not strong enough, really. Little car's going back together. The engine's back in, and starting where we mean to start. There's the steering rack and the master cylinders. That's the front master cylinder. That's a great big 7/8 diameter thing, and the rear's a little 5/8 thing, because on the front we've got two big road car calipers, and on the back we've got a single motorbike caliper, which needs that difference in the brake master cylinder diameters to get a sensible brake balance. There's our pedals in, and the steering column. Something new to the show is our little gear lever here. Now, because it's sequential gearbox on a motorbike, it only has to move backwards and forwards, which makes it nice and simple. And that little machine plug, one end goes into a bush in the chassis, and the other end goes into two of those little DU bushes we've seen before, and that's nice. And to get to the gearbox, a little straight bit of tube, that's actually a bit of stainless steel tubing that used to pump milk around the dairy on the farm here, but far better used doing this. That end, little M6 joint that goes on there, and the other end to go onto the motorbike end of the show needs a left-hand thread, but not having a left-hand M6 thread, it's got a left-hand nut welded into there. And there's our gear change rod and our gear lever in place. As you can see, it finishes nice and close to the steering wheel, far enough away that you just miss it, but close enough to grab it like that when all the action's happening. As you may be aware, racing cars always look like they're finished once you get the front suspension on the car. So there it is. It's all been on the car before, but now it's got all the right bolts and spacers, the spring damper units there. We've got master cylinders, reservoirs, air equip, left front suspension, and it's even got brake pads in there. So there you go. It's a bit of progress. Moving along to the back of the car now. The final drive unit's in, complete with brake disc this time. And the drive chain, quite a long drive chain. And beautiful little motorbike caliper there. Fuel tank's ready to go in, but before I put it in, I just thought I'd show you the little nest that it sits in to stop it wobbling around. And just a little tip that the fuel tanks and radiators and electronics already want to live on foam, and stick the foam to the tank, not the chassis, because if it ever gets all grimy in there, the foam comes out with the tank and it's much easier to clean. There's the fuel tank in place, and to stop it jumping out when the going gets tough, a little fella goes on top to hold it down. Moving right along, we've got drive shafts and lower wishbones on the car now, all the right bolts and spacers. That involves getting involved with CV joints and CV grease, everybody's least favourite job. But I got away with it pretty cleanly. Okay, so our spring damper unit's on now, along with the rear top wishbone and the beam across the back to take the spring damper unit, and the toe link here with that little homemade clevis attached to the rear lower wishbone. And bear with me, just see if we can see if this fits. You guys in there okay? It's our special, very expensive bolt. It's really heavy, isn't it? There we go. Top wishbone pops on there. Something goes in there. There you have it. So little car's at a stage now where we could, if we wanted to, put the wheels on it and stick it down on the ground to see what it looks like. But there's a bit more work to do up in the air yet, such as putting the electrical system on. So we'll try not to be quite that impetuous. Well, it turns out that clearly I am that impetuous. And there she is on the ground. Looks quite cute, really. And in case you're wondering what that is in the back of the shot, have a look on YouTube at Rat Cafe V8 bike. It's all there.